We've got so much to cover today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Jess has been dropping the agenda in the chat, and so we are going to have an agenda today like we always do. Feel free to follow along with that. We are going to do some screen share at some point as we go through it, but really excited just to cover the topic we're going to be covering today, which is all about Gen AI. And I don't know if you guys heard, but there's this new thing out there. It's called AI. It's going to change the world. It's not going to take over the world, but it is going to change the world. And so we've heard a lot of people, especially in the B2B world, kind of share their struggles with getting AI adopted. I think it was the shiny trinket a year or so ago, and everybody tried it, and then they had frustration on how do they get really good outputs or make it valuable and meaningful for their business. And that's really what this session is all about. We've invited our partner Jasper and Cailin DeCourt, who is one of the smartest people that I know when it comes to getting good results out of Gen AI, to join us and drop some knowledge bombs today. And so we're excited to jump on in. Go ahead and grab the agenda. And Jess, you've dropped that at this point, I'm assuming. And
I have. Yep.
awesome.
I'll put it in here one more time for our new arrivals.
That's great. Yeah, because it looks like a lot of new folks are jumping in. I appreciate that. So go ahead and open up the agenda, and I'm going to follow along. We have some housekeeping items that we're going to share before we get started. Number one, we have a Demand Gen Jammers community on LinkedIn. If you're not part of our community, we would love for you to be a part of our community. It's on LinkedIn. Not the best place in the world to have a community, honestly, but it is a place that we're all on most of the time, and it's a great way for us to just stay connected in between these events. So if you're not a member of the community, just follow the link that's on the agenda, and you have to request to join, but we'll let you in. We'd love to be there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of topics today that we're not able to get to, and that community is a great place for us to just keep the conversation going. Number two, we have our wonderful co-host here today, Ryan Miller, who's our SVP of Sales and Marketing. You want to say hi, Ryan?
Hey, everybody. Good to see all your faces.
Yeah, excited to have you here, Ryan. And Jess Wood is joining us as our moderator today. Andrea is actually at Disney World in Florida, so she couldn't be here today. She'd rather be at Disney World than to be on the Demand Gen Jam session. I can't imagine why, but she is. And so Jess is the head of our AI council at Vendy Digital. And so she was willing to come in and pitch it for us. And we're super glad that you're here, Jess. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Jess is like, you hear about leading edge and bleeding edge. Like Jess is right there on the cusp of bleeding edge. She keeps us up to date on all the great things that are going on in the world of AI. So we're glad that you're here today, Jess. And then our special guest, I've already kind of highlighted, Cailin DeCourt. Cailin DeCourt is with Jasper. She is on the customer success team. She's our customer success person, and truly one of the smartest people that I know when it comes to getting really good quality things out of AI. So Cailin, good to have you here. You want to say hi to everybody?
Yes, great to meet you all. I feel like I know some names through LinkedIn and other sources, so super excited to connect with y'all further. I'm sure y'all will have tons of questions about generative AI, Jasper, all things. So super excited to get to know you all and super excited for the next hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, glad that you're here. And I know that this is an important topic. It seems like every time I post something on AI on LinkedIn, or we do an event around AI, it always blows up because everybody's still really trying to figure this out. And I'm sure that's why you guys are here today. And let's get the conversation rolling, Ryan. Why don't we do that?
Absolutely. So if you guys have been here before, we like to get some questions going. So a couple of those things. First and foremost, type in to the chat there, how are you using AI today? Secondarily, what are you hoping to learn today? What itches can we scratch for you?
Yeah, would love to get the conversation going on those things. Absolutely. And the other thing that we've got going on, Ryan, is a real event, huh?
In the flesh. So this is like, you guys have kind of been on the same journey as the rest of us in this world. Virtual events for some time. We're super excited to bring back in-person events. So next week, April 25th, in Denver, we're doing a big AI mixer. The crux of it is really similar to today, but diving into some of these things, doing some real world case studies, but most importantly, beverages, tacos, and lots of games. So networking opportunities. So super excited. So if you're in the Denver area or somebody who might be interested in this, let them know. It's going to be a very casual event, but really excited to see people in person and just have open AI discussions.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were doing lunch and learn type events until COVID, and then we pivoted at COVID and started the Demand Gen Jam sessions. That's why, honestly, that's why we're doing these, is that we had to do something during COVID. And it's interesting. It's the silver lining thing. I mean, we're primarily Dallas based, or a lot of us are in the Dallas area. And so we were doing a lot of events in Dallas and a couple of other places across the country. And this has really turned out to be amazing. So we really love we've been doing this for over 2 years now. We're not going to stop doing this. But when Ryan came on board at the beginning of the year as our SVP of sales and marketing, he was like, let's go back and do events again. And we picked Denver because that's where Ryan's based out of. But we're going to be going to other cities too. I'm sure we'll be in Dallas. I'm sure we'll be in Houston, maybe Austin, Cailin. But would love to hear if you want us to come to your town and do something fun. Let us know, and we'll be happy to come out there and get that into our schedule for sure.
When will you be sending information out on the Denver event? All of us are putting in the chat. When is it?
I just dropped the link for us.
Yeah, it's next Thursday, and we'd love to have you. If you're in Denver, please come. We'd love to have you. And there's going to be a little bit of education, but a lot of food and fun.
But where do you find the details? I mean, I don't know the time, the place.
So it's in the agenda. Jess will drop those snippets. Also, if you head to our website and look at events, it's in there as well.
Thank
You bet.
You bet. Awesome. And then in May, we have something different in May. For those of you that have been part of our jam sessions for a while, you know that we do these every month, except in the spring and the fall, we do a webinar, and a webinar slightly different than these webcasts that we do, these jam sessions. At the end of the day, it's a virtual event just like this, but here's the difference. We try to cover a really important topic and do a lot of research and bring something that's going to be really relevant and useful to you guys. It's more of a teaching event. So I'll be in a studio and I'll deliver about 45 or 50 minutes worth of content. One thing that we're hearing right now is that B2Bs are really trying to figure out how to do B2B social the right way. And how do you integrate it with ABM? How do you integrate it with demand gen? How do you do it in a way that's omni-channel so that what you're doing in social media isn't different than what you're doing in the other places in your go-to-market? And so that's what we're going to be focusing on. And so next month, it won't be a jam session and it won't be on a Wednesday. It'll actually be on Thursday, the 16th of May. At 11:30 instead of 12. We just opened up literally right before this session today. We just launched the LinkedIn event page. There's a link in the agenda to that if you want to go ahead and get registered for that. Stay tuned, more details to roll out. But that's what we're going to be doing in May, is we'll do this event on Thursday at 11:30. And then my wife and I are heading to Tulum literally the next day because I'm going to be burned out by that point, I promise you. So anyways, that's all the announcements. Let's go ahead and just jump into the general topic of today. And I know that there's a lot to cover, so we're kind of moving along as fast as we can. And this is a really important topic. I think all of us understand that Gen AI is a key component to our success moving forward. And that's why we did this topic. We did a webinar on it back in October. I've got links to things like that down in the resource section. But we wanted to bring in a Gen AI expert because, as I mentioned at the top of the call, one of the challenges that we see B2B struggling with right now is just how to get Gen AI to produce really good outputs. I think everybody saw the shiny trinket. They got excited about it. But it's one of those things about garbage in, garbage out. If we don't know how to talk to it, if we don't know how to season it the right way, then we're not going to get the kind of outputs that we want. And another part of that is just understanding the different use cases that are out there to just open our eyes and our minds to the ways that Gen AI can really help our business. And so if you're following along on the agenda, one of the things that I just wanted to share with you is a little bit about our story. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but it's going to be relevant, I think. And so back in the 90s, I was a technology sales rep. Back in the 90s, technology and data centers were just blowing up. And I just found myself in the middle of that. And then this thing happened in the late 90s called the internet. Now, the internet had been around for a long time. I think we all know that. But as a business tool, it really hadn't been something that we were using in business until the late 90s. And then we had what we called the internet boom. And I just saw as a sales rep in the world of B2B that the internet was going to change B2B business forever. Because what I saw the internet really as was a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week salesman. And I didn't see it as a replacement of salespeople, but I saw it as something that was going to augment the way that businesses could go to market. And so I left the job that I had, and I actually started an agency specifically to help B2B companies leverage digital marketing because I knew it was just going to completely disrupt the world. Now, what's crazy about that is back in the late 90s, for those of you that might have been around back then, people were really afraid of the internet. Especially in the B2B world. Like I would talk to CEOs back then and say, you need to have a website. And literally CEOs were telling me that they did not want to have a website, that they knew who all their customers were. They didn't want to put any of their trade secrets online so that their competitors could go and steal their information. That was like the last thing in the world they wanted. They were like, we know who our customers are. We go to all the right trade shows. We don't need a website. People were afraid they were going to lose their jobs. The reason I'm saying all that is back in the late 90s and early 2000s, the internet was a disruptor and a lot of people were afraid of it. And a lot of people stuck their head in the sand and didn't do anything about it and weren't early adopters. But here's what happened. The people that were early adopters in the late 90s and early 2000s, especially those in the B2B world, they leapfrogged ahead of their competition. And there was this huge competitive advantage for them because they did jump on this new technology early on. Well, let's fast forward to today. The challenge that we have today is that digital or the internet is no longer a competitive advantage, right? Early on, you could do pay-per-click or early adopters to social. You could get in there as a B2B and jump ahead of your competition just a little bit because you were, harnessing a technology that they weren't harnessing just yet. But the reality is everybody's online today. Everybody's using digital. Digital is not a competitive advantage. Well, today, I do believe AI is just as much, if not more, of a disruptor to the world than the internet was 23, 24 years ago. And just like the internet, those that jumped on early had a competitive advantage for an extended period of time. I really do believe that AI is going to be that same opportunity. And so, sure, I think the latest studies that I've seen are like 80+% of businesses have played with AI at this point. But the challenge is, how do we get AI to do something meaningful and valuable for our business? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Cailin did a great webinar series last week for Jasper customers. And I saw this quote, Cailin, I can't remember if you shared it or Carissa shared it, but it was from the CEO of Google. And he basically said, and I'm looking at it right here, we are going through the biggest technological shift since the internet. And that's where we find ourselves right now. And so I just wanted to start with that because we've got to get this right. For those of you that are on the call, I know you're here today because you really do believe AI can be something that will help you get that competitive advantage. We just need to know how to do it the right way. So congratulations for being here. I'm excited to go on this journey with you. One thing that I always share when I talk about AI, we don't have this thing figured out. You guys don't have it figured out. We're on a journey together and we're learning as we go. That's why we have things like the community. That's why we have resources like our AI toolkit. They're all there to help us learn together because that's how we're going to figure this stuff out. And so anyways, I thought that would be just a good starting point. The key point there is, hey, this is a disruptor, but it's also an opportunity. Don't be afraid of it. Double down on it. I think you'll be really glad that you did. Jess, I want to pass the baton to you. And, Jasper is one of our strategic partners. We sought them out, and I thought, Jess, it'd be good for you just to share a little bit of that story.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Paul. Excuse me. So, as we were getting ramped up in AI as an agency, we had several use cases and problems we were looking to solve too, just like I'm sure many of you guys, right? So content creation, collaboration, that security of, your business data, where it lives, all of those things. And so as we were doing an evaluation of the different tools that were out there, Jasper just really stood out. I did see a lot in the chats, like the content creation part, and those are things that are important to you guys, but also everything that's under the hood for Jasper. It's like all of the best of the best are rolled up under Jasper, and you get to collaborate, and it's just got a really great user interface. So those were all the things that really led the pack in Jasper and our partnership.
Yeah, we were looking for something that was purpose built for business. I think
Yes.
the very first time, I knew that OpenAI was out there. I trialed Jasper before the launch of ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT came out, and I played with it. But man, I would never stick my financials in ChatGPT. I would never do something like that, right? Well, you need to have
Right.
something that's built and designed where you've got privacy, you've got the ability to collaborate with your team members, you've got all those things. And the other one is, and I'm sure Cailin will show us some examples of this a little bit later, but in order to get good outputs from AI, you've got to have good knowledge, what we call seasoning at Vindy.
Mhm.
And if you're using a tool like ChatGPT, you're having to season it and season it and season it, and you can't really train it on your knowledge. And that was something that was really important to us, is we wanted to be able to upload all of our content and then ask AI to give us outputs based on our information, not the World Wide Web's information. But at the same time, we wanted to be able to go grab information from the World Wide Web when we wanted it. And so Jasper was the tool that gave us all those capabilities. And so we found that it's just been awesome. And then the other thing that I think you'll discover when you get to meet Cailin, as she starts walking us through some of this in a minute, is they have real humans that can help you when you have questions or need help. It's not like, a personless AI. There are people behind it that support you. And that was important to us and important for our clients. So thanks for that, Jess. Let's move on down the agenda. And I thought what we could do is just have a little bit of a discussion before we get into Cailin's presentation about what we're seeing, because we're in it every day. Cailin, I know you're in it every day. The team here at Vindy Digital, we're in it every day, serving our clients, serving ourselves. We're getting a ton of value out of AI and leveraging it the right way. So I thought we could have just a real quick discussion on what is the real value that we're seeing with AI that's really business value. Like, we're investing in AI, we're spending time, energy, and effort, and we're getting things that are helpful for us and our clients. What are some of those things?
I love that. I can definitely kick things off. One of my customers actually said something on Monday. They've been with Jasper for just a couple of months now, and this really rung a bell with me. I shared it on LinkedIn this morning, but she said generative AI isn't going to replace marketers, but if you don't use it, you're going to be replaced by marketers who do. And I think
Right.
that puts it perfectly. Generative AI is not going to replace your job. It's going to be a supplement and an advancement to what you're already doing. And so as a CSM at Jasper, I work with over 300 accounts. I work with over 1,000 users directly. And I always break down their path to ROI with generative AI to 3 categories. So we usually see improved productivity, increased impact, and an increased performance. And so everything at the end of the day comes down to that increased impact. I know Carissa, which is one of my coworkers directly at Jasper. I know you mentioned her at the beginning of this call, Paul. She did an interview with one of my customers, and they saw an 88% reduction in costs by opting for Jasper over traditional SEO methods. We're seeing an 88% increase with one of the customers I work with directly when they deploy Jasper Brand Voice. They've seen an 88% increase in traffic. And so we've been able to see they're not only able to create content faster, but they're able to create content better at the same time without sacrificing quality. And so I know in the demo, we're going to be talking a lot about control, but what I think generative AI is able to do tangibly is provide you control over what your content can actually look like. So yes, you're going to get speed, but you're also going to get performance. So I'm excited to kind of open up that conversation of how you can get kind of both ends of the table there.
I'll walk it back just a little bit into some kind of snackable pieces. But for me, like when I first was introduced to, let's just say GPT almost a couple of years ago, believe it or not,
Yeah.
that immediate experience that you guys have probably all had when you put something in there. But what I found it to be super useful for, and when I kind of get over into Jasper, if I get stuck on a concept, if I get stuck on an idea, or I'm having trouble writing something, man, I just treat it like my highly educated college intern, and we have jam sessions. We can talk back and forth. Well, what do you think about
That's so
that? Oh,
true.
that's really good. I didn't think about that. Well, that's 3 points that I didn't think about. So for me, just in the day-to-day, an executive level stuff, or if I'm just trying to bang out a piece of content, it is super helpful to be my little buddy.
Oh, that's awesome,
One of the
Ryan.
things that I've started doing and whenever you mentioned that jam session, Ryan, it brought to mind that my follow-up questions are different now. So when I'm working on a strategy or an idea, I'll say, what am I missing?
Yeah.
What else should I look for?
Questions.
What are the anomalies here? And it's so helpful to analyze data and just take a deeper look into, an area or a place in business that you can really dive into that way.
Yeah, I'll just add on here a couple of things that are huge values for me. One, if you've been to our jam sessions before, we preach on having 3 to 5 content pillars that you really need to build your strategy around, 3 to 5 things that you want to be known for, and you need to stay inside of those lanes because marketing is an exercise in memorization. And if we don't stay in those lanes, people are not going to they're not going to understand how we can help them. They're going to be confused about that. And so we need to kind of stay in those lanes. But my goodness, if you're trying to post something on LinkedIn every single day and you're trying to come up with a blog every single week and a new topic for a jam session, how in the world are you going to continue to talk about the same things over and over and over again? And AI has just been incredibly valuable to me because I've learned little prompts, and I've got all these prompts in our AI toolkit, which is down in our reference section. But to take a concept and then repurpose it around key ways that folks will find it interesting. So basically take one piece of content on a content pillar and then repurpose it around a different, like turn it into a listicle or take a listicle and turn it into a blog. AI is incredible for that. At the end of the day, as B2B marketers, we're all really focused on, trying to ship as much information out there to our buyers as we possibly can. And I think if we all are limited by our own time, it's like if we could ship more things, we would ship more things, but we can't ship more things. And so we're kind of restrained. Well, AI, if it's used the right way, gives us the opportunity to actually ship more things to our buyer. Another just avenue to that is personalization. I think we all wish we could have blogs for every single persona in our buying committee at every stage of at each of the buying stages, right? How awesome would that be? But we just don't have enough time in the day to do all that. If we use AI the right way, we can easily do those things. So the challenge that I see folks get into with AI is that they're trying to create something from scratch end to end with AI. And that's not really the best way to leverage it. It's use it as a tool to help augment and improve things, but don't ask it to start with a blank sheet of paper and write something that you're going to ship out the door. That just doesn't really work. And so, anyways, those are some big ones there that I thought really stand out. Any other parting thoughts, guys, as we move on to the next topic?
I want to throw one more in about kind of data analysis and using data analysis to inform content and to inform direction.
That's a good one.
There's even instances where you can grab a screenshot of, let's just say, a GA4 snapshot of your user behavior and what's going on. You can have it analyze what's going on, and then you can ask it specific questions to get content recommendations that actually line back up to what they're seeing in the data.
Yeah, so that's great.
Those are kind of like mind-blowing moments when you get that data, and it's, once you get the right prompt, it's a matter of seconds.
Yeah, one of the things I love to do is we have a persona in our knowledge base, and we can go and take a landing page, drop a link to it, upload our persona, and say to AI, what information requirements of this persona is missing from this landing page, and it will come back and say, oh, well, you need this, that, and the other thing, which is kind of lines right into what you were saying, Ryan. Cool. Well, let's move on to the next topic. And I'm just following along on the agenda here. And, we've kind of touched on the value. I just wanted to quickly highlight, what are some of the struggles that we see in why companies are just not getting the value out of AI? Is there anything that kind of comes to mind? We talked about the value, but what are the things that are impeding us from getting that value?
I'll just start with kind of a narrow imagination. So those who are figuring out how to use AI are using natural kind of intuition to challenge tools to get what they need. So it's having the curiosity and the inquisition of what can you do, tool, whatever it is, and pushing it until you get what you're looking for. So it's that natural kind of inquisition, but pushing it and being curious and dreaming and seeing what you can do.
Yeah, I think it can also be that the biggest struggle is that fear of failure, right? Because it's a tool and we're scared that we're going to do it wrong, or it's not going to give us what we're looking for, or maybe it's hallucinating. So it's all of those things where it we internalize it and it becomes a struggle on how, or being an expert in it, right? Like, how are we going to show our team how to use this? How are we going to be able to roll this out? Because we don't fully understand it. And so it's that fear. But I think that once you just embrace it and know that mistakes happen, and you're going to learn as you go, then the sky's the limit.
I love that. I know we're about to talk on standards and strategy in just a second, but I think that's huge. As a CSM, that's like the biggest thing I know is customers almost rush into adopting AI without having guardrails set in place of how are we going to roll this out, not only amongst our team, but across departments? How are we going to do this? What ethical usage do we have in place? Are we piloting? How are we scaling? And so really understanding what adoption is going to look like first is so important if you're thinking through adoption of AI. And I know you put this so well, Paul, you always talk through like ingredients. So tools, people, process, like what's the clear process we're going to have to incorporate AI into our existing workflows? Who's going to be in charge of this? I know Jess is talking about an AI council. Who's going to lead integration and implementation? What tools are we using? Are we going to have control over that outputs of knowing what our sound is going to look like, what it's going to look like stylistically? So I think having control over those three ingredients too, having standards, having structure, having strategy, helps a ton too with those fears and that resistance to change.
Yeah, those are all great. I'll just add a couple of things. One, I think just me talking with B2B marketers all the time, they don't realize that AI is a raw material like wood, or sometimes I use the analogy Legos, right? Wood is an amazing thing. You can build a house with wood. You can do all kinds of things with wood, but it's not going to make itself. So you have to learn how to take the raw material, have the skills and expertise to convert that raw material into something valuable for your business. And so if you go up to wood and you just say, hey, wood, make me a house, it's not going to make a house. It's going to require some skill in order to make a house. And that's one of the things and why, Cailin, we wanted you to be on the call today, because it's really how do you talk to it? And Ryan, I'm going to touch on something you said too, and that is it is a conversation. Another challenge that I think I see B2B marketers have is they go to a chat GPT or a generative AI tool and they think they can put this master prompt in and then get exactly out what they want. And the reality is, yes, you need good prompting to get good output, but that's like step one. You've got to look at the data and then literally through experience, just have a conversation with it until you get the output that you want. In fact, we use AI every day in our business for us and our clients, and it's never push in a prompt, get an output. It's come in with a strategy, do some work with AI, back and forth. I saw a comment in there about one of the challenges folks are having is just industry related information or knowledge base. And that's one of the reasons we love Jasper, because we can upload all of that into Jasper. They have what's called a knowledge center. And then when we go and prompt it, it's not going to prompt on anything outside of the information that we want it to know about. So, that's one of the biggest struggles with like a chat GPT is it's read the entire internet, right? So it's going to give you feedback based on that information. And for us and our clients, we want to make sure it's trained on our knowledge and our information. And so that's great. And I think that's any other comments there before I segue into Cailin's presentation? Awesome. Hey, Cailin, I did see a comment about how is Jasper different than chat GPT. And so you might answer that. I'm just going to give like a really 50,000 foot view. Jasper's interoperable. It works on multiple AIs, but what it is, so it's just like chat GPT in that it's a generative AI tool. But what they've done is add this business built for business layer on top of it. So things like knowledge base and seasoning documents and tone of voice and all of those things that you would want as a business in order to use a tool like this, they've added that layer. And so think of it, it is Gen AI, just like ChatGPT. It just has a business use layer on top of it. I don't know how to say it any better than that.
Yep, exactly. And I dropped an article in there, not written by me, that walks you through step by step a couple of more of those differentiators just for a more logical view. So hopefully that's a little bit more helpful too.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to the next topic, Cailin, and just have you kind of talk about best practices for adoption and just show us a couple of things.
Yeah, for sure. So both myself and a colleague did a little bit of a run through just last week on role-based specific enterprise marketing workshops. So I work with a lot of customers that vary by industry, by vertical, by role. So email marketing, content marketing, SEO. And so we walk through a couple of things, but before kind of diving into what Jasper could look like for you or how generative AI can work in regards to having more control, I wanted to touch on strategy and standards. And so I know we kind of just talked on standards, but I think it's super important as you start ideating through generative AI and how that could be deployed within your organization. And so a huge piece of advice I always like to think through is how to properly roll out AI to your team. Something I've actually noticed as a CSM at Jasper, we notice this a lot, is that there's sometimes a rush to adopt AI. And then after that, there's kind of a sort of lack of usage across the team. So there's not proper guidelines in place for responsible use of AI to protect your brand reputation, to ensure ethical usage. I know we talked through kind of that humanization of content. So this could just include things like making sure all generated content through generative AI is reviewed by a human before publishing. Or maybe you are setting those brand specific standards and product information within a knowledge base. And so always like to touch by starting on standards. But then strategy, I know, Paul, you hit on this really well. And so I thought this would be a perfect way to think through generative AI before going through a demo of really evolving your go-to-market to take advantage of AI. And so I think we all see this. I think we all feel this, but marketing in the AI era is just going to be different. Distribution is going to be different. The way people discover your company, what their expectations are as customers, it's all going to look really different because it's a technological shift. It's not just a piece of technology. And so I always recommend just thinking through new ways you can use AI in order to empower your team to focus on what they truly love to do. And so here just kind of gives a better glance of how you can look at generative AI as a process. So from research and analysis to strategy to creative execution. A lot of times I see customers adopt generative AI specifically for creation, but I know we touched on analysis and gathering suggestions and doing ideation and doing up-to-date research. There's so many other ways AI can be adopted into strategy here. So I always like to touch on that. And then outside of that, this gives a really broad view of how current marketers are leveraging generative AI. I think this just gives a broader view of how it could be used across your organization, from events to partner acquisition and announcements, to field marketing, to landing page and web content, to marketing ops. I see generative AI used in so many different ways. But what I think is really cool to note is that this is just an example. The ideas are endless. And so with that being said, I think you need a culture of continuous experimentation within your organization. So that might be a marketing AI council to figure out who can test, who can learn, and who can scale generative AI within your organization before you actually deploy it. But on this note of talking through use cases, something that I think is incredibly important is knowing how you're going to use generative AI. And so talking about standards, talking about strategy, I can't highlight the partnership piece enough. I think our most successful customers are at Jasper are those who have someone guiding them through the process. I've been at Jasper for over 2 years now. I was hired as employee number 11. So I've been here for the long haul, and our most healthy and successful businesses using Jasper are those walking with CSMs. And so I think a partner walking with you, teaching you what an acceptable AI adoption looks like, how it should be used within your organization. What are your key content deliverables you need to execute? I think it's a collaborative effort. And so it truly makes all the difference when it comes to adoption and usage of AI. And so with that being said, I know working with a partner, you don't have to do all of this yourself. I'm sure there's tons of people on this call kind of feeling that burden of what is this going to look like for my organization? Where do I start? How do I do this? And so I know partners like Vendy, I've worked with Paul for a bit. I've gotten to know the team really well. They can provide dedicated resources and expertise to help you successfully adopt AI into strategy. And so I think that's incredibly important. You're not starting from ground zero. You're having someone walk with you through that process. So as a CSM, I always like to plug that because it allows you to focus on what's most important, which is really growing your business. And so, Paul, before we kind of dive into demo, is there anything else you want to add on strategy, standards, anything like that, use case implementation?
Yeah,
adoption?
no, this was great. And by the way, these 2 slides, we did add to the agenda, so you can drop those, grab that from the agenda. There are some resources at the bottom that I touched on a little bit. So we have an AI toolkit. We have an AI-enabled CMO playbook. Those are all designed to help you get involved or get AI going. Certainly, if you want some help along the way, we're more than happy to to help you with that. In fact, Ryan's going to ask for some volunteers here at the end about possibly having us work with you and practice on building a content strategy with you. I'll let him talk about that a little bit later on, but certainly we've got some great resources for you to check out. The CMO AI enabled CMO playbook is really awesome because it does walk you through all the steps required to get going with AI, a way to assess your readiness, a checklist for use cases like what Cailin's got here. So a lot of useful information there. Be sure to check that out.
Love it. Awesome.
One thing while Cailin is getting set up that I just want to call everyone's attention to as either leaders of a marketing team or as, a content creator is keep an eye out for the collaboration that you can do within this platform and the approval process. All of that is just so important as you work together, in an organization.
I love that. Yes, we can definitely hit on collaboration. I work with every agency at Jasper, all of our solutions partners. And I think the biggest thing is how can I organize content by client? And so I can definitely touch on that, Jess. I'm so glad you brought that up. Awesome. Well, with that being said, what I can kind of do is take the driver's seat and give you a little bit of behind the scenes. Paul, anything to add before I do that?
No, I think this is great. So what you guys are looking at is Jasper. You'll see it looks a lot different than Chat GPT. And that's because it's got that layer that I was talking about earlier, which is all about the things that a business needs to really use a tool like this. And I don't want to steal your thunder, Cailin, so I'll let you go ahead and go for it. So jump on in.
I love it. I love it. Perfect. So I know we were talking a lot about alignment and control. I think whenever I work with marketers specifically, that is the biggest thing that they think through when it comes to deploying generative AI. How can I actually have control over what my content's going to sound like? How should it be structured? What should it look like? And so I'm just giving you an example of what that looks like within Jasper. But generally, I think as you think through using generative AI tools and platforms, you always want to start with that component of control. And so what we've done internally within our platform of Jasper is we built out what's called Jasper Brand Voice. So you have control over the voices within your workspace. You have a style guide. So what should your content look like stylistically, linguistically, and then what knowledge should be included in those outputs. So I want to start by kind of walking you through how you can actually have control as a marketer as you think through using tools like Jasper or just generative AI. And so in my dashboard, I have this brand voice dropdown, and I always like to start with voices. Anytime I teach any customer how to use Jasper or how to get started with generative AI, I always say it begins with your voice. And so what we've actually done within our internal workspace is we've given Jasper real world content examples of how we write across different channels, across different mediums for different clients. And so if you are a marketing agency, what you can actually do is create a different voice by client. So I know at Jasper, we sound different than Vindy. And so here we're able to really differentiate our sound and tonality of what our content should sound like. So we're not only able to do this at a client level, but also on a medium or by channel level. And so I know for us internally at Jasper, our customer stories sound different than the way that we write blogs. Our blogs sound different than the way that we do email marketing to prospects and to current customers. And so inside of Jasper, we have the ability to give Jasper content examples. So for me, it's really as simple as uploading a URL here. You can upload files, you can upload text of high-performing LinkedIn posts or Instagram captions. So Jasper really understands what your content should sound like first. And so always like to start there when it comes to generative AI. And then I like to guide Jasper by style. What should be included in my content? And so for us as a brand, we have a style guide. There are certain rules generative AI needs to know as we're creating content. There's certain abbreviations, trademarks, replacements that just need to happen because our whole organization is using Jasper. And so if we're using Jasper, we need to make sure we're saving time editing and we're using Jasper in a way that's really aligned. And so within our style guide, we get to set these rules for terms. So anytime Jasper sees the word copilot, we like to call Jasper our AI marketing copilot. That's always lowercase with no in dash. Maybe we always use the word prompt over input. Customer success manager is always abbreviated to CSM. We just have more control on terms and then grammar and punctuation. I know we work with customers in the UK and Canada and Australia, so they can standardize the content Jasper gives them by region. So they have a little bit more control here. And then you can even take it one step further within a knowledge base. I know Paul touched on this. I think I would say if I had a favorite part of Jasper I would highlight, it would be knowledge. because this is my central nervous system. If I need to tell Jasper anything Jasper should know about our product, our services, our offerings, if I want to upload a PowerPoint deck in here to ideate topics from, I can do all of that inside of Jasper. As a CSM, I probably use Jasper a little bit different, but something I always do is I upload a transcript from every call and every webinar I ever do. I upload that into my knowledge base so Jasper can create not only a really great summary, but a personalized follow-up email to every customer I interact with. And so in my knowledge base, as Paul was mentioning, you just get to have more control over what Jasper should know before you start creating content. And so everything starts in brand positioning with generative AI, but then you can get into the fun stuff. And so I'm going to go create content. I'm going to open up a new document, and I'm going to start in this phase of ideation and research before we dip into creation. Because I was looking through the chat, I was giving you a bunch of thumbs up in the chat. It looks like y'all are leveraging generative AI for that thought process first. So coming up with ideas for nurture email sequences for customers, how you can best target buyer personas, how you can come up with ideas that are relevant for current market trends and things happening in the industry today. And so inside of Jasper, you get access to what's called Jasper Chat. And so here you get to prompt. I know prompting is a really big thing, but we actually have a tool inside of Jasper Chat that can help you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take an example of something from my knowledge base we can reference as a foundation. So I'm going to click on this megaphone. I'm actually going to search HubSpot here. And what I actually added to my knowledge base is you can see it here. It's the 2024 State of Marketing Report from HubSpot. This is relevant, up-to-date, accurate information I want Jasper to look at. It's a 43-page deck that I want Jasper to know and learn from to ideate relevant blog post topic ideas from. So I'm going to add that to my knowledge base and add that to my prompt. And I'm going to tell Jasper to do something. And I'm going to say, just act as a content strategist and review the attached report on recent content trends and consumer behavior to ideate a list of 10 high-quality blog post topic ideas for you, B2B marketers. Now, when it comes to generative AI, a better input always equates to a better output. So with our enhanced prompt functionality, it helps you become essentially your own prompt designer or prompt engineer in Jasper. So if you're ever stuck in that stage of understanding what constitutes a really great prompt, all you have to do is click that enhanced prompt functionality, and Jasper will look at your input and make it better. I can always edit this. This isn't finite. That way, whenever I do go to send this off to Jasper, I can just be assured that I'm getting the best output in return here. So Jasper's looking at that full deck. He's looking at my prompt, and I'm going to get 10 different blog post topic ideas I can use from that direct asset. Any questions coming up on that I can hit on while we're getting an output there?
You know, one of the things I'm gonna tell you a little secret, but we got this prompt library in our AI toolkit, and so as we find cool prompts, we'll put it in there so people can just go and borrow them. But one of the things that I do is I use that prompt enhancer all the time. I'll put in my idea, and then I'll put it in there, and then I'll copy and paste it and put it in our AI toolkit, because it's nice to get the AI to tell us what a good prompt would be.
Exactly. Yeah, I think not only is it, Jess, go ahead.
I have a question. I don't work for I work for a manufacturer. And you just picked, somebody else's content for them to look at and create content from. I mean, are there concerns about copyright laws? So like if I said, oh, wow, I really like this content from my competitor, but I don't want to use their content, but I'd like something similar or glean something out of it, and then I pop that link in there as an example. I mean, where's AI going with copyright laws, and how do we mitigate risk for being fined and penalized for doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Paul, you can hit on that. I can actually add a couple of things Jasper centric there, but if you want to go with that.
So Romy, great question. Here's the thing about copyright. Number one, it's okay to, just like a human would go and study that HubSpot report and then use that to ideate on their own about things they might want to write about for their business. Like we've used that HubSpot report for our own business in the past. And so it's okay to do research, which AI is doing research when you do something like that. And then the actual copyright law, if you go look at it, and I'll find a link to it and throw it out there. Here's the thing about copyright. if something is 100% produced by AI, it's not copyrightable. But if you take something and you add a human touch to it, then it is your own copyright. And the thing about going and looking at like this HubSpot document, Jasper creates unique content. It's not going to regurgitate what's in that HubSpot document. It's going to use that as information, just like ChatGPT uses the World Wide Web for information. It's going to use that for information, but it's not going to regurgitate those words back into a document. Am I saying that the right way, Cailin?
Yeah, absolutely. And so something that I talk with customers all the time is every piece of content you're going to get is going to be unique. And so, Romy, even if you and I were going to communicate with Jasper the exact same prompt, we would get a different unique output each independent time. And so a knowledge base just serves as a way for you to give Jasper context into what to think through and ideate through when it comes to topic creation, brainstorming, ideation. And so, Paul, I think you hit that right on the nail there.
Great.
Thank you.
I can just add there too. I mean, I see now that sources have been brought in. So this is right. And a lot of the other AI models can't do this yet, but it's being able to bring in the sources. So now you have the choice as your own entity to cite the sources or to not. Of course, always recommend citing sources if somebody has the original thought, idea, or data. But this is super helpful because now you know where it came from. You can also now go click that and dive in deeper and see what else you may be able to pull out that Jasper or other AI models did not find as interesting.
Yeah, Ryan, I do that all the time. Like when I'm writing a blog, I write most of the blogs for Vindy, and I'll use Jasper to find sources, just like you said. And in SEO, good practice is to, cite 2 or 3 sources per article. And so it's giving me good content, but it's also, just like you said, pointing to great sources that help just with the SEO side of things.
I love that. Absolutely. So that's something that's really big with chat that I noticed too, is you're not only able to ideate and brainstorm off of existing assets and collateral. I know I was on a call with a customer this morning and they use interview transcripts from sales enablement to come up with different ideas from perspectives of other customers and prospects they're communicating with. So they can start there. But I gave Jasper a new prompt as we were having that conversation. I'm also able to not reference knowledge and just have Jasper do some current search of what's currently happening within the industry that's relevant and new. So if you're someone that needs to dip into market trends and gather sources, you can ask Jasper for that. And on that note too, those sources are current. So I just looked into one of these sources on one of these topics, and it's from February 29th, 2024. And so you can be super specific and ask Jasper to gather sources from certain sites from a certain date range. And so you do get that up-to-date information you can access from a research standpoint, but you can do some ideation off of existing collateral as well. So you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
And for sure, if you're a Jasper customer, I would put all of your foundational content, all of your blog topics, all of that stuff needs to go into the Knowledge Center so that when you're writing something new, if you don't want to use the HubSpot article, you can just use your own content, which is, in my opinion, the best. Now, granted, when new reports come out, industry related reports, we love to take that information and, season it up with our knowledge as well. But then create something new and unique out of that.
We also, Mason just had a comment on here about, what comes out of using generative AI is about 90% there. I would say 70 to 80, 90 is awesome. But this should never be the end, right? So we should, just as good marketers, making sure that we're creating unique content and thought ideas, never copy and paste exactly, because it is so general. Like this is for us to go in and really tweak and make it our own. And that's what makes it unique. This is almost there, but we always want to make sure that we have that human touch as well.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's also a really common problem when it comes to adoption of AI is Jasper is going to give me that full final output. Jasper will give you a fantastic first draft, but you're still the editor with generative AI. That's why we like to call Jasper a marketing co-pilot. It's you and Jasper together. It's not just Jasper by Jasper self. So incredible point. As we're getting those ideas, I'm actually going to send off one more prompt in Jasper chat, asking Jasper to generate a list of highly relevant and valuable short and long tail keywords for one of the topics we received from Jasper in chat. And so here's me leveraging Jasper in a new organic way. I know we did a marketing workshop just last week on content marketing and SEO. I know a lot of my customers are using external third-party tools for SEO, but others are really leveraging and diving into generative AI for this use case specifically to better do analysis of what should I be including in this blog and why. What keywords should I be using? What should I be using for certain optimization for this blog? And so I can move this over just to get a better sense here. So not only did we get a topic that's relevant for current market trends, but we also get some keywords to go alongside this. Cool. So what I want to do is, since we have some ideas to run from, I want to walk you through really quick end-to-end content creation using generative AI. So once you start with brand positioning, Jasper knowing your voice, any generative AI tool knowing things about your business. Once you've done ideation, you can go into creation. We have a new functionality in Jasper, and this is super helpful for me because it's more of plugging and chugging than having to fully put in an input to receive an incredible output. We've done prompting on the back end, so really all you have to do is select your desired use case, fill in some dynamic input fields, and you're going to get a full end-to-end marketing output for any use case. And so I'm just going to take a common one. I'm going to select blog post, and I can be specific and select a voice by marketing asset. So I'm going to choose Jasper blogs to match this specific use case. And then I'm just going to give Jasper my topic. So this was the role of generative AI in enhancing B2B customer experiences. I can copy that in, click next. Jasper's then going to ask target audience, which is huge. I know whenever things are coming out in regards to Google, SEO, you need to humanize your content and reach your audience. So this is a really critical component of this workflow, Jasper knowing who your audience is and who you're trying to reach. So what you're going to notice is you're going to get smart suggestions, but you can also input anything independently if you know who your audience is you're trying to reach. So I'm going to say B2B professionals. I'm going to click next. Maybe I don't yet have an outline. Maybe I do have an outline from my SEO team. If I don't, I can click generate response to have more control over what my output's going to look like first. So what Jasper's doing is looking at my topic and looking at my audience to come up with an ideal outline of what this blog post should look like. So what should my introduction look like? What should each subheading include? So this is just going to give me more control as a marketer to understand the output that I'm going to be receiving from generative AI. And so you can see Jasper doing some back work here. I might even go ahead and refresh.
Yeah, I mean, what a time saver that is, right? Just coming up with what an outline should be for a blog, you know?
Oh, I know. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it just still gives you more control over this is what Jasper thinks I should kind of look like and optimize this for, but I still get control as a marketer and as an editor to edit it. So that's something I always like to highlight. Second thing is custom information. Here I can just grab this additional external context I have on keywords. I can plug this in. I know a big thing also is word count. Like I need to guide Jasper on target word count. I can always say, make this blog post between 800 to 1100 words. So if you need short form or long form, you have control. And if you need to add context from your knowledge base for Jasper to know your product, your services, your offering, data, insights, I know we went into all of that. You can add that here as well for Jasper to have more control. And then all I have to do is click generate now, and I get that full output in a document. So whether it's a blog post, a 4-email drip campaign, a press release, a case study, internal, external communications, I can execute it all there just in the touch of a button.
I mean, taking a breath there. Is anybody else like, oh my God, why wasn't this here, you know, when blah, 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 X time, or maybe that's now, maybe that time is now for you. But my goodness, I used to write hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blogs for all kinds of clients. And man, I wish I had this.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And, you know, I talked about repurposing content. I mean, for me, that's one of my big love affairs with AI is to be able to take a blog like this. Let's say that's a blog that's made it through the approval process and everything. And now I'm trying to come up with social media content, or I'm trying to come up with different ways to leverage it. You know, the concept of the content flywheel. This makes the content flywheel so simple.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's probably one of my favorite use cases right now is readaptation of content and repurposing of content. So what you can see I just did here is Jasper's able to look above and see the blog post I created. So I asked for a really quick LinkedIn post to promote it. So generative AI knows the difference between a LinkedIn post and how that should be optimized versus how a blog post should be optimized. So I'm going to get those hashtags. I'm able to change my brand voice to adapt to new channels. So from blogs to social media, that makes it really quick for me to readapt content across different use cases from social media to blogs to email marketing. So as a B2B marketer, it makes it a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Cailin,
Kailin, I
real
want to jump
quick,
on
I
that.
know
Oh,
we're-
go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
I know
Go
we're
ahead.
running on time, but I'm sure others have this question. But let's say you read the main blog and you're like, there's things I really want to fix. How do you come back in here and make changes? How do you use AI? How do you do it manually? What do those steps look like?
For sure. So probably my favorite editing functionality with generative AI and Jasper is called our Ask Jasper functionality. So if I'm ever looking through content and maybe it's gone through a process, I've spoken with my manager, I need to change tonality, I need to change length, I need to add in context, change style, I can highlight any piece of content and tell Jasper what to do with it. So maybe this voice needs to be more corporate. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more informal. Or maybe I need to grab this text and expand on it, make it a little bit longer. We have tools that you can come in here and use as the editor to really focus on editing and customization of content directly. So it makes it really easy for me to come into Jasper and work directly alongside Jasper to expand. And so I can edit content, but then you can always come back in and make any adjustments as well. So maybe I'm looking at the intersection of generative AI and I need tangible examples. I can ask Jasper to give me 5 tangible examples of this intersection. And it allows me or anyone else in my workspace to come in here and make edits. And so I know that's something that was touched on at the beginning is collaboration. That's huge for us at Jasper. I work with customers and teams from 5 team members in a workspace to 600. And so I know collaboration is a really big thing. And so something you can always do is share content with anyone in your workspace, just like you would in a Google document. This gives other people visibility into what you're doing before you publish. Outside of that, I know we talked through like a review process and where content is in that process. We have a campaigns feature, which allows for full end-to-end content creation for a marketing campaign from a singular brief. And this makes it easy for me to move content from in progress to in review to completed to publish. I can see who's working on it, what the due date is, when it's due specifically on my calendar. And then I can even sort content in Jasper through something like Spaces. And so I know internally within our customer success department, we have several different use cases and projects we need to execute. So directly here in Jasper, I just also have more control over that organization functionality as well.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm looking at the clock here, realizing we've got 4 minutes till the top of the hour. Mark, I also saw your question. I'm going to answer that question in the community. So be sure to jump on that. That's a really great question about length of posts. So I'll go over to the Jammers community later on today, and I'll answer that for you. And any other questions that we didn't get a chance to, either Jess, Ryan, or I, or Cailin, maybe you could jump in there too and answer those. But lots of great questions today, lots of great discussion. Cailin, thank you so much for coming out today. And before we wrap, Ryan, you want to walk everybody through this request that we have looking for volunteers?
Yeah. So ultimately, we're giving you guys the opportunity to kind of see where the rubber meets the road. So maybe you haven't played with this, maybe you have played with it, maybe you haven't seen the results you're looking for. So if you'd like, you can join me for 30 minutes. And in that 30 minutes, we're going to create a persona-driven content strategy, content plan, which I've been doing this for a long, long time. Marketers struggle all the time. What is a content plan? How do I use it? What do I do with it? So let's do it together. So if you want, in the agenda, you can grab the link to my calendar, grab some time. Let's go play in the sandbox together and make something that you can kind of create with me and then take home that day.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're all trying to figure this out together. So we just want more at bats. So that's really why we're asking for this. We'd love for you to schedule some time with Ryan. Let's practice together. Let's learn together. Again, not a sales pitch. This is a sales free zone. We just want more at bats with people and more use cases to get to learn more even as we go. So we'd love for you to do that.
One more thing. So Jess, you said something really insightful earlier, which is, people, and we're all included, kind of have a fear of maybe failure, right? When you're trying out this thing and everybody's talking about AI, but maybe you used it, maybe it sucked, and maybe you're a little bit like, ugh. You can watch me screw around with it too and make some mistakes, and then watch how we correct it and guide it back, right to where we need it to go.
Yeah, man, that is a great point, because like we talked about a couple of times, it's about a conversation. It's not one prompt in and output. It's about prompt in, look at what you do, add another prompt, and then you get the thing that you're looking for. So that's a really good point. So guys, thank you for your time. We'll make sure that all your questions get answered over there. in the community. So join the community if you haven't. Cailin, wow, this was really just packed full of useful information. Thank you for coming out. And guys, be sure to register for next month's not jam session, but webinar on how to master B2B social. I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to be all about leveraging social media to be a part of your omni-channel campaigns. We're going to talk about ABM. We're going to talk about paid. I think it's going to be really helpful and useful to you. So we will see you next month, and appreciate you all coming out today. Have a great rest of your week. Take care, everybody.